Hey there, this is Emily and Bernie from Third Place Works, where we help co-working professionals with tailored cohorts and one-on-one consulting. Our proven frameworks can help you get focused, stay accountable, and see real results. Want to learn more? Check out the show notes for all the details on how to join us and take your co-working business to the next level.
Hello, folks. It is the Co-working Baddies podcast. I've been on the edge of my seat for ages. In my luxury Vigo studio, I have Sonya and Julie. Sonya and Julie, we'll sort out who's going to go first, but what are you both known for, and what would you like to be known for?
Who do you want to go first, Bernie? Shall I go?
Go on, Julie.
Okay. So I'm Julie Firth. I'm co-founder of Story22. We have a marketing agency based in the UK that focuses on StoryBrand marketing. My background's in journalism, and I've been working in marketing for about 10 years with my business partner, Sonya, and our team of amazing marketers.
What do you do, Sonya?
Hi, I'm Sonya. So I obviously co-owner at Story22. I come from a background from corporate, so sales and marketing through corporate, also with kind of an operation and strategic oversight. So my role in the company is looking at strategy in terms of how we get messages out, but also focusing on kind of the technical delivery. So through how we get that content out to market through websites, through digital marketing platforms, etc.
And we, just to set the scene for folks, we met in Nashville in 2020, wasn't it? When just before COVID is how I always remember it, when we all did our StoryBrand guide training together. And that seems like 100 years ago now.
I know, such a long time ago, and we were flying back from Nashville from that event, and we saw someone with a mask on a plane, and we were kind of aghast that someone was wearing a mask out in public. Little did we know that we'd all be doing that sort of 2 weeks later. But yeah, it was a strange time, wasn't it?
That was. I really valued that trip to Nashville and going around, seeing all the music and stuff, and it's a great place to go, Nashville. I'm so glad I did that training and got to see Nashville. So what I've got you in here today, because you were there, was it last week you were in Nashville at the Business Made Simple Summit?
A couple of weeks ago now.
We need to be very specific on the timings. But so you did this presentation on AI, which really caught my eye, and that's what I want to delve in today. And I just met so many people in any kind of business or freelance situation, but most of our audience are co-working space owners and operators and community managers, and I feel like I'm learning AI, but I'm amazed at how many people who I think are way smarter than me are not using artificial intelligence, things like Claude or Gemini or ChatGPT or Perplexity, to like get through their day. And one of the biggest things you have to do when you're running a business is marketing. So how do people get started? I'm like, what do you think they're missing out on by not investing time in an AI machine?
I think it's definitely idea creation. I think that's one of the main uses that we found when we first started using it within our agency a couple of years ago. Is that we're just one brain, one set of experiences, and AI really opens up a whole other opportunity there for us to learn about what else is out there, what other thoughts are being generated around particular topics, different angles as well. So for me, I tend to head up the content side of the business, and for me it was really interesting to kind of see all of those different opportunities open up, particularly with tools like Perplexity, which I know a lot of journalists are now using as well. So idea creation, obviously time saving, but I say that with a bit of a caveat, because I think that's one of the first assumptions, is you're going to save time. Actually, to use AI tools well, it may well take you longer to start with. And our learning is probably that in some ways it saves time, but actually it's more about the quality of what you're trying to get out of that improves through that kind of consistent use and through teaching your tools the knowledge and the skills that you have, so that can work alongside you.
And what would you add to that, Sonia?
I would say that one of the things that I find it most interesting for is to kind of challenge the thoughts that we have. So sometimes I use AI to, if I've got a thought or a belief, I'll ask it to give me counter arguments to it. So when you're creating content or looking for information to be validated, it'll quite, quickly and easily produce counter arguments, which is interesting in marketing because you're looking to see why things happen. You're trying to predict what's going to happen and what the best way to land messages will be, but also the ability to be able to quickly analyze data, to pull reports quickly, to personalize things quite easily, to take a transcript from a Zoom call that you've done and to quickly pull that information into some bullet points and some action points that you have from that. So I think there's lots of interesting ways to do it, and some of that, as Julie mentioned, does save time now. But actually, it's taken us a lot of learning and a lot of practice and a lot of prompt writing to be able to get to that point. So you can then take a discovery call that you've had and quickly turn it into a proposal that then pulls on all the points that were talked about through that discovery call. And that for me is fascinating. Things that might have taken hours for you to to kind of pull data and analyze, you can do very quickly, and that's a really exciting space to be in, I think.
It is. What we're doing right now, I've been meaning to do it for all year, but we finally sat down and we've got all the transcripts from these podcasts and we're asking it questions like, what did Sonia say about AI? And then we'll be able to quote those in blog content, because it's basically, this podcast is over 200 episodes of super smart people talking about, co-working and community building and marketing and communications, and being able to quote that. I'm never going to go back and listen to everything, but it is astounding how fast you can find out what Gareth Jones said in 2023 about freelancers by doing what you just said. So a lot of co-working space marketing is email marketing, blog creation, Instagram's really big. I'm going to limit to those three things. So how could people, if you walked into something and people were going, I need to get going with AI, like where would you sort of guide them to rip the plaster off and get going?
I would say probably the easiest and one of the most versatile tools is ChatGPT, and that's in a really interesting space as well, because obviously now for paid users you can start using it for search as well. I don't think that in the short term it's going to replace us using Google for quick answers. Where's the nearest takeaway, or those sorts of quick answers. But if you were asking it more complex questions, I do think there's value, and people might start to use AI to find the solution to who scored the most goals in the season 2021 or whatever. That might be something where you start to use AI search. I would say that one of the things that I believe is kind of most important to learn when you first start using AI is two things. Number one, AI can behave a bit like a badly behaved child, and it doesn't listen to what you say, and it can be quite frustrating that you feel like you're asking very clearly for information, and it can just sometimes not work in the way that you want it to work. So persevere, get through that tricky part of trying to get it to do what you want it to do. The second thing is that AI gets things wrong, and it gets things wrong a lot. It'll either hallucinate, which is it will make up data, and it does that because it's got a gap in the data that it's trying to provide, And so in order to fill that gap, it will make things up. So it will make up case studies, it will make up quotes, it will make up reports that have happened, it will make up names of people. And so you have to be super kind of on it to make sure that you are proofreading and checking everything, because there's a very high chance that it has made something up. But also it just gets things wrong, so it will misinterpret data. And so everything you do really has to go through this kind of human editing. AI is not going to replace humans in being able to deliver content, because it is unreliable and unpredictable sometimes in the results that it produces. And in order for you to be assured that the content that you're going out with, or the data that you're going out with, is correct, it has to go through human insight. So they're two of the things that I think that kind of persevere in learning how to get the information you want out of it, but also just to be thinking about how you validate that information is right.
And Julie, as like this long-standing hardcore copywriter journalist, when you get to like writing stuff, what would you advise? I want to sort of two questions. I know you're not supposed to do that, but like, what would you advise people to do, and how has it changed your experience of creating words on the internet?
Okay, so how has it changed? I think just to roll back a little bit, when ChatGPT first became sort of when we first became much more aware of ChatGPT and the opportunities it offered, there was kind of big waves around the copywriting community that this was, the end is nigh and our jobs are all at risk. And to a degree, if you are junior copywriter, then there is an argument that perhaps you need to upskill your prompt skills rapidly to stay relevant, for sure. But I think one of the biggest misconceptions around that is that the quality of the output wasn't good. And that comes back to the quality of the output is driven by what you input. And if you, the garbage in, garbage out, essentially. And I think one of the things that we've learned over the last couple of years is that the time that you spend teaching it your style, teaching it your tone of voice, teaching it your structure, your preferred structure to a blog, giving it a list of banned words, and training it to not sound like an AI tool, which all does take a lot of time, a lot of patience to do that. It does pay off eventually. It's not always a quick win by a long stretch of the imagination, but it's about learning the quick ways to do that. And I think everyone who has been working on this over the last year, a couple of years, has been on a bit of a journey with this, and we're pick up tips wherever we can. And that's some of what Sonya's put into the training that we've developed, the workshop, is to try to kind of fast track people to that, so then they're not having to go through the same painful process. So the upshot of that is, now I feel as a copywriter, I have an amazing tool that I occasionally have to, goes back to the naughty child. I have to bring it in line every now and then, but the results are far better than they were 2 years ago. And I've got a writing buddy with me, so I am better as a copywriter as a result of that, because I've got someone that I can brainstorm with. And if I kind of turn that back to my time in the newsroom, where being able to kind of turn over your shoulder and talk to your colleague and say, can you give me some help with this headline I'm stuck on? It's a similar kind of relationship that I have now with the AI tools, is that, can you help me brainstorm some ideas around this? Might be 4 o'clock in the afternoon and I'm feeling a bit of lag, and that is priceless to have that on tap, to just give you that inspiration and that different angle, or that perhaps that different tone of voice as well. If you need to personalize your content for different avatars, and perhaps your strength isn't in comedy writing, for example. You want something to sound a bit more energetic and humorous, and perhaps that's not your natural tone of voice. Be able to use AI to give you some inspiration around that is just brilliant.
That is, I'm completely there with you. There's two things. Is the chatting back and forth, saying like, I really want to write a blog post for marketers who live in Kent and not Bristol, and it will work it out somehow. And the other thing is, use it a lot. And sometimes I'll just go in and say, what am I working on this week? And it will just give this list. And I'm like, 3 of those things I've forgotten about, even though they're in our project tool. And I'll be, oh my, better get on with that. And it's taken a long time to get to that stage, but it's phenomenal. Sonya, can you just say about that, the goal and the pen and the pencil thing that you said about before we started recording? Because I think that's a beautiful representation of what's available for us.
Yeah, and I think it links to marketing in general, but your goal, where you want to get to, and it actually links to life. Let's be more profound, but where you want to get to is your goal. You write that in pen. That is my target. That's what I want to achieve. But the route there is in pencil, because we adapt, we learn. Marketing is about learning what's happening, and part of the beauty of marketing and communication in general is that it's not just about us, it's about what's going on in the wider world, that we have to adapt our messaging based on current affairs, or what's happened in the news, or lots of different things. And so that pencil journey is kind of representative of our ability to be able to change and learn and move forward, still while having this kind of in pen goal where we're trying to get to. And the way that I think that is particularly important in marketing is that it's around a campaign. We've got a campaign, we want to achieve X, and this is we plan out, we strategize, we write in pencil the route we're going to take. But as we move along that journey to achieving our goal, we have to adapt. We have to learn what happens. We have to, a competitor comes out with a different product, or something happens, externally to the organization, or there's an election, and there's a budget, and that changes things. And so that kind of is what we mean by writing in pencil. And the way that I think that relates back to AI is because we then have the ability to be able to quickly adapt. And you could use your AI tool to plan multiple scenarios. So if you've got a campaign written for a certain point of view, or a certain thing that's happening at the time, you could quickly adapt that campaign to something else that's happening. And so I'll give you an example of that. You've just talked about kind of changing the tone of voice of something through marketing. So you could then give a campaign to AI and say, could you change this to write in the tone of voice of whoever that's relevant to give you a different slant, to give you a different spin on how that might be.
Yeah, it's I drop ideas into, because I'm dyslexic and ADHD, and I like walk around talking to ChatGPT, and I say like, I want to do this, and this, and I'm like rambling into it. And then I say, could you attempt to put that in a plan for me? And it will come back with something that would have taken me like 3 weeks of, and a retreat up a mountain, cold plunging to get to that stage. That is, and I almost feel like guilty using it because it took 10 minutes walking around the block and an espresso coffee, not all that time. And that's, it really helps prime the pump. And also that I've done what you said there, is said, this is, we want to do this, and then we've changed direction, and I've had a panic attack, and then I've just put it into AI and said, we were going to do this, but now we're going to do this. We were going to selling bananas, but they don't like the skin, so now we need to sell peaches, and it will adapt it all, and it just saves so much like brain power. One of my big questions, which confused me early on, is everyone seems to have an AI tool they should, like, oh, you should use this, you should. There's a lot of shoulding around which AI tool to use. How would you recommend people to Is it stick to one? I actually don't know the answer to this myself, but is it stick to one or swap depending on what you're doing, or like how do you guide people there?
I would
Sonia, do you want to
say,
pick up this one?
yeah, I was going to say, Julie and I talk about this a lot, and some of it is just around misbehaving, and we're not quite so polite to say misbehaving when we're on our WhatsApps to each other about how our AI is behaving. But there's definitely tools that I prefer for particular jobs. So let's just, two examples. As I said, ChatGPT, I think, is very versatile. So it's very good at initial phases of projects, coming up with ideas, maybe short form content, proofreading, spell checking, stuff like that, making sure that there isn't stuff there. It also has got a load of annoying habits. So for us in the UK, M dashes is something that is prolific in ChatGPT, and it drives me crazy. And if you don't know what an M dash is, it's basically a long hyphen that is used in American English to separate words. Where we would typically use a comma, they would use maybe an M dash instead. And so it very obviously to us in the UK is it's American English, and it makes it feel like it's been AI'd. And ChatGPT just cannot, even if you give it a real clear instruction to say no M dashes, it just is prolific with them. And actually, interestingly, I saw yesterday on LinkedIn a discussion with American marketers who were saying, do M dashes give away that it's AI? And they were kind of raving about how much they like an M dash. And it's basically a pause, it's a pause. It's the ability to pause in the flow of narrative. And so if I've got longer form content, or I don't want to have to go through heavy edits and, kind of remove those, I might then move to Claude, who it doesn't tend to use M dashes. And actually, if I want something developed a bit more thoughtfully or a bit more detail, then Claude is great to use. But then you get to kind of learn the personalities, if you like, of AI as well. So ChatGPT will almost be chomping at the bit to deliver what you want. So without, you almost kind of have just pressed the enter button and it's producing the results super quickly. Whereas Claude is like a child asking, why is that? Why is that? And it will come back to you sometimes and ask as many as sort of 6, 7, 8, 9 questions before it will actually start producing content, because it's trying to get more information to make that content more valuable. But again, if I don't need that, I wouldn't go to Claude to do that. So it's kind of learning the personalities of the AIs to what you are trying to achieve from that. So my personal opinion is you need to use lots of them. You need to use different ones based on the different tasks that you are performing.
What would you add to that, Julie?
So just we were at the Inbound conference in Boston earlier this year, and there was a lot of talk at that conference around having different agents, and you can see some of the tools that are out there already that are developing them. So it depends on what field you're in, what tasks you've got as to where you go to for your tools. Obviously, we're talking today just about the ones that we're using for content generation, but there are tools that are already preloaded. So Cintra's has all these kind of different agents. If you want someone to speak from an HR perspective, or all these different business functions, so that's going to be really interesting to sort of see how they develop. The other thing that we've seen is even within ChatGPT and Claude, and other tools, is how you can then train each of your chats to be a particular specialist area. So it may be that one of the instructions we always give is we start with you are an expert marketing strategist. If you're going to perhaps be working on perhaps avatar development, or getting insights into what problems a particular product or service might solve for a set of different avatars. For copywriting, there'll be an expert copywriter. So each chat may assume a different function in itself, and you can then load that chat up with different assets, different resources to upskill your chat, if you like, to perform the different function that you need for that specific task. So I think as we move forward, I don't know whether you'll agree, Sonia, but the talk at the HubSpot conference inbound was much more around we're moving towards this having specific agents that work almost within the business, so it becomes much more personified by role, if you like.
Yeah,
That is really
absolutely.
interesting. Just before we go, so like Will Guidera's like the biggest book in co-working at the moment, and the last biggest book was StoryBrand. And how would you, in like 2 minutes, how could you do StoryBrand in ChatGTP at the moment? Because that's one of the things that sort of comes up a lot. I mean, I don't mean I get people coming to ask me how do I do StoryBrand in ChatGTP, but how would you accelerate your understanding of that framework?
Can I just start by saying we've obviously been StoryBrand guides for coming up 5 years now, and we've worked with hundreds of organisations and businesses around the world. And the biggest challenge that we find that people have when they're first looking at StoryBrand is the strategic oversight of it, and really getting to the heart of what those different 7 steps of the story framework are. My question, and I don't know, I don't know that there's a solution for it at the moment in AI, is that I still think that you need a human to be able to make sure that you've got those steps right. And that is one of, of the, hundreds of brand scripts that we've seen that people have written. Having read the book, and then they try to implement that framework into a brand script. Out of the hundreds and hundreds that we've seen, we've only ever seen one person who's been about 95% of the way there without any help. And that is because it's complex. It's difficult to get close to your business. You can't see the wood for the trees because you're so in it. And it takes this kind of strategic oversight to have this helicopter view of the journey that your customers are going on. So I think, firstly, you're going to have to spend some time really thinking about the problem that you solve for your customer, thinking about how you develop those 7 story steps. Once you've got that developed, I do think there's a lot of tools, and I'll let Julie kind of, tag onto that, how you might do that. But I would say that AI does not replace a human's ability to strategically think. We have to, AI cannot give context to anything. It's got no ability to be able to, think strategically in terms of what the context that we're trying to deliver.
Yeah, definitely. Julie?
Well, just really to echo what Sonia was saying about, I feel like having led lots of, we've led lots of workshops and lots of brand script boot camps where people do put their own brand scripts together, and then they come to us for that check-in, for that expert check-in. And the problem is always the area that trips people up. I think there's other areas where AI could help quite in terms of gathering your authority. I think there's a really good opportunity there, particularly to do a scan of your competition, to show how you stand out from that. But for me, I genuinely feel like you need somebody else that's not in your business, that has strategic marketing oversight and expertise, that can take a step back from that. Because more often than not, most business owners, when they come to us and they think they know the problem is totally different to what they think the problem is. They often don't meet their customers where their customers are at, so they're selling them a problem, the solution to a problem that their customers perhaps aren't even aware that they have yet. And without those in-depth discussions that we have with our clients when we're taking them through the process, which obviously isn't going to happen with an AI tool, the danger is they're going to go off down the wrong track and not get the results that they could be getting from this.
Absolutely. as you were saying that, I was thinking yesterday I was working with a client and doing a Q&A with them. And then I went to the person coaching me. And even though I just solved this person's problem over here, I couldn't see my own problem. And then I went to speak to Ollie, and I sort of hung up and thought, if I hadn't had that chat with Ollie, I would have been in my head for the rest of the week. And it's amazing. I know it sounds cliche, but it's amazing how important a human brain is to the whole thing. Okay, so thank you for your time and attention today, folks. And just before we go, I don't suppose you've met Will Guidera recently, have you?
It's funny
I hate to
mention that,
feed you the
Barney.
lines.
Funny you should mention that. We did meet him. He was at the StoryBrand Summit in Nashville, so we got a chance to meet him and listen to him deliver a really exceptional talk on unreasonable hospitality. And it's a book that both Julie and I had read over the summer, and it had really connected to how we feel about customer service. And it really kind of layered in when we're developing customer avatars for our own business. We think about the types of customers that we like to work with, and they always have this exceptional kind of focus on delivering great outcomes for their customers and delivering great outcomes for their people as well. And so it really kind of dovetailed nicely for us in kind of marketing and customer service, and how they really work hand in glove, in that when you've got great customer service, it makes the marketing department job so much easier, because you can, retain customers, you get recommendations from other people. It's all kind of this self-fulfilling prophecy of this great business. And when you deliver poor service, or you don't, wow your customers, that what happens is that the marketing team's job is made, 100 times harder, because you're trying to counteract that. And one of the things that I feel really passionately about is that a lot of businesses just deliver okay service. And that actually is almost as damaging as delivering bad service, because we don't recommend people, and we don't rave about when things are just okay. We're just, and actually, as a business owner, to just deliver okay service, what happens is that you are allowing other people to come in and deliver better service and take your customers away. And so it was really, kind of fascinating to me how customer service and marketing kind of intersect and become kind of partners in building businesses. We decided that actually it was a good kind of tool for us to add in for our clients as well. Been thinking about how customer service is important in terms of kind of or in relation to marketing in general.
So, just to give you a bit of context, folks, is we met doing StoryBrand in Nashville, and then that company's built out lots of things. And they've started to do this coaching program, and Will Guidera is one of the coaching programs, which is what I'm really excited about, because it is in Bernie's little head, the merging of StoryBrand and Unreasonable Hospitality is just like almost as good as ChatGTP. What do you think about it, Julie?
Everything that Sonya said. But I think what's really exciting is the holy grail of marketing is to get brand equity, where your marketing function works for itself. And we are very lucky to work with some incredible clients who really do go above and beyond to deliver the very best. So, but there is always other ways that you can improve on that. And one of the things that Will Guidera touches on, which I think is fascinating, is about how we can empower our team to take the lead on that as well. So we're really excited to sort of see how we can take that further for our clients with this program.
Ace, we're going to come back and do another podcast on that, because I just can't get enough of that book. Where is the best place to find you folks online and engage with you and all that other end of podcast marketing stuff?
So you can head to our website, which is story22.co.uk, or you can connect with us on LinkedIn. So we've got a Story22 page on LinkedIn, and also Julie and I's personal LinkedIn, which will be Sonya Whittam and Julie Firth.
We can put all of that in the show notes. Thank you. I've been looking forward to this for ages, and thank you for spending all this time with us. And ladies and gentlemen, if you go to the show notes, we're very, very proud of our show notes. There's like links galore in there. There's a link to the Workspace Design Show, which is in London in February at the Business Design Centre in Islington. There's the now 8,000 strong LinkedIn group where people are chatting, and interestingly, there's 8,000 people in there. 850 people visit that group every week, and about 4 people post something. So if you're listening to this, go and post something, a nice little story that will help people engage around the world. And also there is European Co-working Day, link in the show notes to that. And also we're talking about that in the group. Have a remarkable day. Be careful out there. It is a jungle.